ready to plan out the second book that I'm going to write. In my previous video, I spent a lunch hour this week brainstorming for my second book in the series that I'm writing. And I wrote it down in a couple pages in this notebook. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ideas that I wrote down and I'm going to put them on tiny little post-its, and then I'm going to pin them up on my wall in the order that I want the scenes to happen. I'm basically cutting my book into 3 parts. Now, I know the overarching story. I know what is going to happen. I don't quite have the ending completely fleshed out, but I know where I'm going to take my characters. And so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to split it up into 3 different parts, working myself up to a plot point that happens, and then that is going to be the second part, and then another plot point that happens. That's going to be the third part. I'm going to try my best to film this without showing too much of what I'm actually writing, because this is the second book and I don't want to spoil anything in case these books ever do get out in the world. I mean, eventually they will get out in the world because I will eventually self-publish them, but in advance, my apologies if this is filmed in kind of a weird way. On our walk, I just explained basically the story that I want this book to follow to Tom, and I got so excited, and I'm so excited to map it out today. I think that this is probably going to be the last chunk of writing that I do for this year, because next week is Christmas and I really just want to take a week and a bit off and read and spend time with family and just really relax before the new year, because this next year is going to be a big year. I can feel it, and I just want to take a little bit of time to ease into it. Let's do my last chunk of writing of 2021 and plan out a story for next year. It just occurred to me that I may have never actually explained what my book is about, which I absolutely can. The first book is a fantastical retelling of the First World War. It's a little bit of the legend of Anastasia, with magical main characters. The magic system in my world is elemental, and a pretty intense romance. So it is adult fantasy with romance, and I really stumbled into writing it, to be honest. I thought that I was always going to write a historical fiction or a bit more of a ghost story, a little bit more of horror, because that's kind of where my interest lay for so long. But I'm really, really happy that I took the chance and I wrote a fantasy, because it really just let my imagination soar. And I was talking to a friend last night and I was telling her the other book ideas that I have, and she was saying that she's impressed with my imagination, and I told her that, as with anything, it was just practice. I got into writing via writing nonfiction. I went to journalism school and I didn't ever think that I was gonna write fiction. I wrote a couple plays in high school, but I never really thought that I was gonna be a writer, a novel writer, but I just wanted to try it, and I'm so happy that I did, because this is forever my favorite hobby that I have and it makes life super fun, and I love spending my weekends and my evenings and my mornings and my lunch hours doing this. I love living in my imagination, and that's exactly what this is. And this really is the best part of the process for me, is the planning and the daydreaming and the asking of the big questions of what if the story takes this direction, or what if this character does this. And the writing part is certainly more of a challenge than this part. So I think it's time that we pour ourselves a cup of tea and we sit down in our thinking chair and we get started. Hello, and welcome to my bedroom. Okay, I am done, and I normally put all of my Post-its behind my closet door, but I think I'm going to do it on this wall so that when I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing that I see. So, yeah, here we go. You know, fun facts about me and Tom. This was exactly what I was doing the day that Tom proposed to me. This was like 2 years ago now, I think, in the summer. I think it was June 2020. But I had spent the day doing this with my previous book, and then that night was the night that he proposed to me. We just had like a movie night, but it was really sweet, and probably one of my favorite memories was I'd spent the day dreaming up a love story and then got engaged. Well, that's probably really cheesy. Anyway, one day we'll get married. Onward. Okay, my friends, I am probably going to blur this out again, just so there is no spoilers, because this is the second book in the series, and I just don't want to spoil any of the plot. So I'm sorry that it's slightly blurred out. But as you can see, I have 3 sections. This may still expand in terms of the sections. This is just bare bones how I want the story to go. So I have the first, the second, and the third part that kind of all lead up to a major turning point for the characters. The different colors are the different characters and the different storylines. The third, or I don't know if you can see it, but hopefully you can kind of make it out. The third section is a little bit lighter on the scenes that I wanted to come up with because I didn't want to go too intense. This is probably going to change as I continue to write. There are still some questions that I put up here that I still need to answer as the writer in terms of the overall storyline and the motivation and how certain things like the legends of this world weave into the plot. So there's still a lot that's open-ended, and I don't want you to think that before you start writing you need to have everything figured out. That's absolutely not true, and to be honest, that kind of thought process is pretty detrimental to writing. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to start in the new year with these 2 sections and just write them and see what I kind of reveal in my writing process. I want to see what the characters tell each other and what, you know, each character is really like. There are new people in this book that are going to be introduced and that I'm going to come up with, and I don't know necessarily what they're gonna be like. Whenever I talk like that, I feel like such a woo-y writer, but it is true for my process at least. We'll see in the new year. I'm just gonna start writing, but I'm really happy. I'm especially happy because the second part, I have a lot of really fun, great ideas that I'm just so jazzed to write because they're just gonna be so good. I am so excited. I don't know, I feel like I keep saying that, but I'm really excited to sit down and write this book. I love this world, I love these characters, and while I'm very nervous because there are things that I need to figure out and that I really want to have squared away and super clear, that are going to take a lot of work, I'm focusing instead on being very excited because it's supposed to be fun. Okay, well, I I think I'm gonna end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was interesting. I hope that you got a little bit of insight into how I plan out my books, and I'm gonna follow up with you when I start writing, and you are gonna be along this journey with me of book 2. I will check back in. In the meantime, I wish you all the best. I hope you have a lovely holiday season, and I hope it is restful and relaxing, but also filled with all of the creativity that makes you happy. I'll see you in the new year.